Hello and welcome to another session of Fearful Symmetries, which is a campaign setting of magicians of England set in the 1930s, with a lot of esoterica involved with that. This is taking place on Easter, so spooky supernatural significance there, or whatever, however you would do that. My name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and we are taking up with our characters after some planning that they have done for a trip to Mathers Hall, which lies in East Anglia, per requests that were made. It is in Norfolk. It is slightly north and west of Dunwich, there, just to kind of put it in geographical relation for where we're headed for our characters. Alan will be joining us shortly, our doctor. We will rope him in when we decide to do that. If I recall correctly, Wilford and Isabella are attending as a pair, with Isabella stressing her outrageous Italian accent. And Richard, you are going with Dr. Whitewood. Um, and remind me, are you going as yourselves, or are you taking another identity here?
I believe that we were going as ourselves, and I was simply going as, I wasn't going to announce myself by my name, but I was going to be just Miss Dr. Whitewood's man. And Dr. Whitewood was going to be, well, we're acting as agents on behalf of Bradbury, aren't we?
Yes,
We're
and
the ones.
you've gotten papers, you've sent that, so
Yeah.
that has been
Dr.
accepted.
Whitewood, I think, was going to trade on being, notorious Satanists in the press, and having been consulted by Mr. Bradbury, I think, as a medical consultant for his troubles, because the letter referred to Bradbury's troubles, which is probably the pregnancy, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Is there anything else that anyone wishes to do before you set off for this journey? Essentially, we can backfill anything with preparedness for a lot of things, but I just want to check and make sure that there's nothing outstanding that we need to hit before we go forward. All right. Then we will see the,
Actually, sorry,
yes.
it just occurs to me, could possibly be the last chance to tap a source of stability
All right.
and gain some stability points before heading off to do more magic and burn all of that.
Absolutely. Just in brief, uh, where do you go to do this?
Um, I think that what it is Richard is putting together a package with an envelope full of money that he previously borrowed from his brother, and a long letter saying, I know that we've had our differences and that you don't understand the path I'm walking, but you supported me, and I promise that we'll see. One day you'll be proud to call me your brother again, and just sealing that and sending it off to his brother.
Absolutely. You to rebuild that relationship and show your brother that you're on a righteous path. You fill this packet with money that you got from blackmailing your boss,
Yes,
and you
exactly.
send that
Yeah,
on.
yeah. He doesn't need to know where that money's coming from.
Absolutely. Just
Well,
just making sure we get the provenance of that
yeah,
in play.
I know you've feared for my career, but rest assured, it is healthier than ever, and I've come to great arrangements with my employers. You need not fear anymore, brother. Um, yeah,
Osmel, if you would change your name. And so we'll see you on the train headed there to Norfolk, uh, and uh, in probably in the same carriage, but separate to kind of keep that illusion up at least a little bit. You certainly can act as if you know one another. Wilford, what is again the identity that you are going as here, sort of?
I think in the same way as Richard, I'm going as Isabella's man
Okay.
servant.
Uh, and Isabella, how are you presenting yourself? Are you using a pseudonym?
Yes.
You don't need to say what the pseudonym is. We'll
Okay.
just assume that
Yes, I could be referred to as the Countess, I suppose, thereafter. I've just chosen one that's like from the sort of more pastoral or area that my family is from, and she is a person. She's uh and I think she's like the second daughter or whatever is the name that I'm using, and she's known for being beautiful and keeping to herself.
okay.
And she's going to be married, but that is a thing that is like being looked forward to because there'll be a big party and so.
So you will disembark at the station where you will be met by a driver with a car that has been arranged. You will see him load uh, uh, the four of you there, and you'll see him stop and he talks with another gentleman who has some bags, who is clearly also expected at the house. And there's some discussion about, I don't think we can fit five people in the car, kind of thing. And the gentleman looks a little put out. And you will hear him referred to as Dr. Hennenberger. And he will look, and he will say, surely one of the manservants can come later, can be brought later. Um, but the driver is clearly uncertain how to handle this, and it looks like he's kind of stuck right this second.
I think it would be willing. I think it might be good that I will volunteer um, to get out because I think this might provide an in um, for the other three people in the. Or should we just boot Alan out because he's not here? The silent partner, get out and
Let's do that the good doctor volunteers for the moment, and will follow in the car shortly after. He's seen a particular point of historic interest in Gorleston, or wherever the train station is. And so you'll be loaded into the car with Dr. Henneberger. Miss Grimaldi, you're put in the front seat, and the three are put in the back. And Henneberger has an Austrian accent, you would guess, but clearly has been in England for a while. And he packs his things very carefully into the trunk and will sit in there, and he will thank you all generously, and he will introduce himself. He says, I'm Dr. Henneberger. I am currently at University of Durham.
Oh, up north.
Yes, this was quite the journey down here.
Indeed. Yeah. York, Peterborough. That'd be quite a trip, that would. And then across the fens. Doctor of what, if you don't mind me asking?
I am a historian. I specialize in Roman history.
Oh, oh, don't know much about that, but I was at the dig
Oh,
some time ago. Yes. Sutton Hoo.
oh, and he will be interested and speak with you about that. His focus seems to be on Roman history. Let me see if we can make a spend here. Do you want to make an archaeology spend, Wilford?
I do, because I hardly ever get to spend
Exactly.
archaeology, so I think this is the in on this guy here. That yeah, my common connection of archaeology at Sutton Hoo, linking into his Roman archaeology.
Yeah. He talks about Roman civilization. He particularly talks about the outlines of Hadrian's Wall and other Roman specialized megastructures and so on. He talks about the limes. And over time, you realize one of the things he's referring to is apparently Roman, that the Romans had a sense of the ley lines, that they established things along those paths, that a lot of what can be found in Roman archaeology, if you look closely, you can associate with these significant places. He talks about the Roman dodecahedrons that have been discovered, and that he believes these objects that others have not been able to determine what their purpose was. They simply they say ritual objects and walk away from it. That's how they define these things. But in fact, I believe that these are specialized instruments created by Roman magicians during those days. I think that there is going to come a time soon enough that we will learn more about their possibilities.
Interesting. But, I don't know anything about that.
And he'll turn to you, Richard, at some point, and he says, "You must be a creative type."
The hands gave it away.
No, I just have a sense for it. I just I can tell when I'm around uh, writers and artists and those sorts of things. What is your art, good sir?
Well, I'm a writer.
Oh, a playwright?
No, fiction novels. Two books so far. Third in underway.
He doesn't even ask the titles. Like he goes, okay. He says, I don't really read modern literature.
No, quite. I imagine you're rather busy with texts of Roman history and other such things. Tell me, have you seen any of these dodecahedrons with your own hands?
He'll give that kind of sly smile, and he'll say, "Oh yes, I have."
Fascinating. Fascinating. You at all creative? An artist, perhaps a sculptor?
Pauses and he says, "Alas, I am unable to create."
I believe we have it in all of it in us somewhere.
That may be true, but for me, it is a little different. And he'll go quiet and he'll look out the window at that thing. You notice he doesn't even address Isabella, kind of ignores her throughout the course of this.
She does smirk when he mentions the dodecahedrons.
And we will see the drive up. We have the pastoral English music as we drive along the lane. Wilford, this is the area that you did your long walk through. There are recognize some of the woods and some of the farmers' fields and the pathways. And eventually, you come onto the grounds of Mathers Hall, and there is a drive up to the hall, and you look off to your left, and you were here just a couple of weeks ago, and you will see that the landscape is different. You can make out the lake, the woods, but you can see by the area where you saw those stones before. The view to that is somewhat obscured by what appears to they have planted a massive set of hedges. That kind of density and so on that tells you that this is an elaborate hedge maze.
Oh, intriguing. Because they are pretty. You ain't going to get through them, are you? That's not a.
No.
No.
And in fact, as you're looking at it, you have enough outdoors that you are fairly certain that they could not have planted this.
Yeah, this is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Could it be implanted in time? Probably not.
And you will drive up, and of course, it is England, so it starts to rain a little bit as you are pulling up, and you are met at the front by the head butler, and they have a couple of staff there. This is clearly a well-staffed house, and they're immediately taking your bags out, and the butler will introduce himself as Mr. March, and he checks in with you, and he says, "Is this all of your party?" Turns to you, Isabella.
And she sort of stops and three
uh,
parties?
Yeah, I meant, did the lady, d- did you bring a maid? Will she be coming along after, or do you need a maid assigned?
She sort of stops and she goes, "Oh, she did not make it."
All right. I will speak with the housekeeper, and she will make sure that one is assigned to you, should you require it. And we'll kind of look and we'll say, uh, Dr. Whitewood is not with you?
He volunteered to stay behind so that Dr. Henniger could join us in the car.
Very good, very good. And you are Dr. Whitewood's man?
Yes, Mr. Fraser, his associate, I
Okay.
would say.
Good, thank you. If you need a servant to see to any of your needs, simply tell me, and I will have a person assigned to take care of things for you.
Sounds smashing, yes.
And they will take you inside. Luggage is magically whisked away. You will come in and be brought in to a large parlor, and you will see Melody von Spall is already there, along with a person that I think you know by reputation, but not by face. But Tobias Kenway, who is at least calling himself Thomas Lydecker here. They are seated at opposite ends of the room, clearly to keep up some of the illusion. But you will see rise from one of the corner seats your host, Dr. Yeager, and he will approach and he will say, "You must be Miss Gribaldi, Contessa." You are muted.
did he say Ms. Grimaldi or did he say?
Oh no, when I say Miss Grimaldi, I'm always
Okay.
meaning your
Okay,
fake
good.
name. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and she takes off her gloves, of course, and she says, I am and then she stops and she said, and I think she says that little bit of Italian that says a pleasure is essentially it. And she does she essentially she will let him kiss her hand.
She would say, please come in and sit. Drinks for you and your man.
And she sort of looks as if she's forgotten completely about him. And yes.
Willford, are you presenting yourself as like you're a bodyguard? Are you presenting yourself as a servant? Like what is going to be his
I
impression
think
about you?
bodyguard.
Okay.
I think I've got the physical form to carry that off.
Yeah.
Um,
And that doesn't seem to surprise him. He certainly will gesture and drinks are brought. And Mr. Fraser, was it?
Yes, Mr. Fraser. I'm here on behalf of Lord Bradbury.
Ah, excellent, excellent. Well, please have a seat. I had done a foretelling, and I knew that Bradbury would not come. So it was merely a gesture to keep the oracle in place. So I was surprised, but of course it makes sense that Bradbury did not come, but he sent someone else. So I understand how this works.
Yes, yes. It's a family affair. I'm sure you understand.
I understand all too clearly there. And he will make sure drinks are brought around. And after a little bit, you will see a woman come in and kind of looks around at the group, and her eyes settle on you, Richard. And she seems maybe a little pleased by this. And Dr. Yeager will say, "This is my cousin, Lady Yeager. She will be acting as hostess this weekend and overseeing things. She may be bored with the discussions, but she has planned some excursions and diversions for all of you. I have more esoteric plans, but we will come to that later. Um, and she will definitely come and introduce herself. She's trying to look older than she is. You would guess that she is in her early 20s, but she's dressed to try and look like, she's 10 years older, like she is the sophisticated lady of the house. And she is not carrying it off particularly well. And I think, in fact, you'll see her affectation seems to amuse her cousin, who sits back down. Um, but she will come over, introduce herself, and she will say, usually my cousin invites the stuffiest of people. So it is a pleasure to see someone with some youth here. Looks at you, Mr. Fraser.
And Richard will take a hand and say, it's a pleasure to find such a lovely hostess for the weekend. I imagine that you can be quite diverting.
And she blushes, and she'll do the gesture. She's trying to keep her composure there, and she will move on as her cousin clears his throat. And so everyone there's some drinks and such that are passed. Jaeger will say, we will have a late supper. We are still waiting on a number of guests who are arriving. When I've had a telegram that a couple will be coming after hours, but we will get started with the meal entertainments. We are the business at hand, the goods and so on. Those things we will discuss tomorrow. We can talk business, or rather shop, but we won't talk the business. How about I should say that we have a shoot scheduled for tomorrow morning. I don't know if any of you brought your own guns. If not, my gameskeeper has some ready. So what's your goal here? Let me kind of go around in this scene, interacting with these people. Isabella, what is it you want to do, or what is it you want to get? You are again muted.
That's going to slow the whole operation down.
Yes, it is.
Very, very safe. I think that essentially I do want to speak to people, and essentially in that sort of way of, she starts with the people who clearly are of sort of the higher status, until she understands who they are, but she does wind her way through almost everyone that she can tell isn't a servant.
Okay.
And she speaks to them, and she's very clearly like sizing them up, trying to figure out where they're from, in that way that she's fairly fearless about it, but that she is like isolated. So she needs to figure out who she's going to, I don't know, stand next to when things start getting bad.
So what do you want to spend?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. Did buy some acting, so it makes like a good thing for that. So, but I guess I need interpersonal, right?
Depends on how you want to play it.
Yeah. I like the sort of thing of it's interrogation, but it's social interrogation. It is asking those
Sure.
questions. Who do they know? Who do they, like she's looking for names that are familiar to her and things like that.
Let's have you make that spend.
Okay.
I think that over the course of interacting with this, you could tell that Henneberger and Jaeger are well acquainted. Like they clearly know each other. You even have the sense that Henneberger has been here before. Like just the way he goes over to the drinks cabinet and pours himself a drink and goes over and speaks in some hushed tones to Jaeger. The way that Lady Gwen Jaeger keeps away from him, stayed out of his way. The other thing you'll see is that Lydecker, he definitely looks uncomfortable. And you go over and you will speak with von Spall, who, does the whole thing like you've never met before.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a bit where von Spall says, yes, we had something of a trial. There was a third member of our party who was supposed to meet us here, who set out early, but has not turned up. Dr. Godhold is an antiquarian and historian of my acquaintance, who we'd brought to assist with the various auctions by Dr. Jaeger's request, but apparently he has not turned up. She says, with a mixture of fear and skepticism.
She sort of stops and says, it's probably in one of those, she goes, drinking houses.
Yes, let us hope that he is in a pub somewhere in lovely Girlston. Let us hope that that is what has happened and that he will catch up with us. Wilford, what is it that you want to do in this scene?
Is Brody Chaplin here?
He is not has not arrived yet.
Ooh, okay, so Streetwise seems definitely out. Let's go at it in a completely different direction. Tell us. I'm interested in the building. So looking out the windows, using architecture. Has anything, has the building changed at all with the recent changes clearly outside? And how does the maze relate to the building? Is it nearby? And
Uh, I think with an architecture spend, you can tell the hedge maze is kind of set up. I talked about the facing of the house towards that lake. And there's definitely a kind of a clear promenade, kind of entryway, a walkway through the garden heading towards that hedge maze. But the building itself hasn't shifted. I do think that with that architecture spend and with your ability, I think there is a moment when you are kind of looking out the window at that area, at the hedge maze, where you will see just the top of those stones. And for a second, you will see a tower there, a dark stone tower that sits at the edge of the lake at the end of that hedge maze. And when you blink, it's gone.
gone. And it definitely wasn't there when I visited before. Didn't stand out.
Correct? No,
And it couldn't be built in the time frame.
no. And it just seemed like a trick of the light to you now. Now you just see the stones again.
A quick question, more of a meta question.
Sure.
The spell Goodwill of the Forest.
Mm-hmm.
If I asked a bird to overfly the maze, how much of that information could it relay to me about the layout of the maze?
That is a really good question. Let me
I
take
don't think it can speak, but I mean something like a jackdaw with a pencil or something may be able to sketch out a crude map. I don't know. It doesn't give you haven't. It's not a sort of an AD&D type druid type
correct.
spell.
No, it's very
Yeah. It's
uh
quite limiting.
yes.
What you could do, just because I'm looking at dowsing right now in the spells, right, is you could give the animal an object of yours and take it to the center of the maze or something like that, to a location, and then you could douse for it because you could say, find my, like, steel pin or something, right? And you'd be able to do that because that's a familiar item to you. And that'd be a simple, I imagine it as like the simple instruction that gnomes can give in D&D, like you can,
Oh, that seems
you don't get
reasonable.
anything back kind of stuff. It's multiple spells, but that could work.
No, I think that would solve that probably better than trying to get
Yeah.
jackdaw draw.
Right. Yes, I think so. And you don't have to do the dowsing until later. You can douse for it later. So you can just
Okay. Yeah, I think that's something that then I'll look at doing that then in the comfort of my own room. Or yeah, I think that's an easy cast.
Okay.
So yeah, no, thanks very much. That was really good
Yeah,
information.
sure. Okay.
That maze is clearly quite interesting.
I think the other thing that you will see is as Mr. March, the head butler, comes back in, um, uh, you were kind of at the back before when he was loading people in. When he passes by you, you'll feel like a moment of electricity, like a charge passed between you and him. Um, and do you want to make an occult spend?
I will spend my well, yeah, I mean I've got a backup because I can go to the book. So I will spend the occult, even though I only have one in it.
Yes,
Because
and you've got 3 build points.
Oh yeah.
Um, you can tell that he is initiated and that he shares your Zoas.
Ah,
He
okay.
is,
That is pretty
yeah,
pretty big.
Palambron.
Yes. Oh, okay. Uh,
Does that
hmm.
seem like good information?
It does, yes. So the manservant is part of the coven, basically. The butler.
Richard, what is it that you're doing? What is it you want to get out of this scene?
So we have with us Dr. Jaeger, Lady Jaeger, Von Spall, Tobias Kenway, and Hennenberger.
Yes.
Right. Those are the guests tonight. And then the staff as
And then the
well.
snap. Absolutely.
I think I would like to talk to the Jaegers, and I think I'm not going to spend much time talking to Von Spall,
Mm-hmm.
but Kenway and Hennenberger. And I think I'd like to keep it to talk shop with them, to talk about what disciplines do you follow, what try and get a sense of them as magicians, to see what perhaps they understand of their arts and how they are, which are they alchemists, are they, how do they differ from our own?
Uh, let's have you make an occult spend.
Okay, I spend a point of a cult. I still have 3 left.
I think you're chatting with Jaeger uh, about various things, and I think at some point you're talking about your own journey, and you mention the ethers, and his whole countenance, his whole demeanor changes, and suddenly he is so interested in what you're saying. He's like, you've journeyed into the
Yeah,
ethers. How
yes,
how far have you gotten?
not far enough, my friend, not far enough. But the things I have seen. Tell me, have you pierced the veil yourself?
I have. So few have the discipline to journey as we do. I have rarely met another who has walked this path. I am very, very pleased that you have come. This bodes very well for things. Uh yes, yes.
I think few may have the discipline and fewer still have the daring, I feel.
Ye-
As he pointedly looks over at the empty chair where Dr. Whitewood's.
Yes. He says, it is a challenging road. There are obstacles placed in our way as we draw deeper into that well. I
The
I
further we go, the further truths remain on the horizon. I can't.
Yes, this is true. To go further still, to go deeper still, sacrifices must be made.
Yes. Yes. Well, I am hoping that our business this weekend may provide some use in my studies here.
I'm sure it will. I I hope that we will have a chance to talk more deeply on these things, and perhaps I can aid you, assist you in the the journey that you are undertaking, and perhaps you might in some small way be of assistance to me in this.
That does sound of interest indeed, Mr. Dr. Jaeger. Tell me, is the art a family affair? As he gazes over the table at the at Lady Jaeger. Lady Jaeger doesn't seem the sort.
My cousin is here because I needed I needed a lady of the house, and
Of
I
course,
needed
of course.
it is easier to have those things handled in that way. She has her place in all of this. And he says that with a real emphasis on place that
Mm.
does not ring very well in your mind as to what he means by that.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say I'll spend an assess honesty on that because it already sounds quite. Yeah.
I think that as this is uh, 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 kind of wrapping up, you will see the doors open and a slightly mismatched pair come in. They have some people with them, but you will see who you will immediately recognize as Brody Chaplin Wilford. Uh, he's a good 6 foot, broad-shouldered, dressed. He's got a couple of scars on his face that have healed. His nose looks like it's been broken a few times. He'll kind of look around there and doesn't say anything, but immediately walks over to the alcohol and begins to pour it. And behind him is this it's a young woman, you suspect, maybe a young man, generally dressed in mannish clothing. You suspect a woman who is very provocatively and deliberately dressed in men's clothing. And Dr. Yeager will stand up and will say, Mr. Chaplin, yes, please help yourself. And then he'll go over and say, you must be Harley Phillips. And he will turn to the group and he will say, Miss Phillips is a practitioner of the arts who came upon my maps of these things. And I invited them to come along to here. And she'll look around and says a couple of things to uh, uh, Jaeger as if to kind of ask where her people should go. And you can see that she has a couple of entourage with her. And then she'll come in and she'll look around and come over to you, Isabella, and sit down very, very close by you.
And I'm absolutely pleased. So this is the thing. That she leans over and says, admirable entrance.
Yes, I had the distinct pleasure of riding up with Mr. Chaplin. I do not think that he was taken with my conversation. Uh, and I disabused him of some notions. And I think as you look over, you'll see that Chaplin is nursing one of his hands like it got burnt.
The only way to handle it.
I'm glad you agree. And you are?
She will introduce herself. And she sort of smiles and she goes, I had a letter from a friend. She goes, and I have something that I think needs to move on. I have gotten what use I can out of it.
Ah, I see, I see. Uh, and she will say, so has he talked about items? Has he said anything about the auction so far?
No, well, except that that will be discussed tomorrow.
Ah, can I ask what you brought?
And she will decorate the story, but clearly, the black Tibetan spell book, essentially. She makes passing mention of some of the Tulpa story, if that makes any sense, but nothing too much, just a little morsel of the. And you?
She will reach into her jacket pocket and she will pull out a handkerchief, and she will open it up, unfold it, and you will see that she has you can see what it is and you can look at it, but it's also kind of hard to look at. But it is a large silver key. She says,
She looks at it and says, "Do you know what it is too?"
I do. It is a dreamer's gift. And she'll fold it back up and put it back in jacket pocket. Chaplain will kind of come over. You see him gauge the room, and comes over to you, and looks at you and says, "What's your story, Willford?" Doesn't say Wilford, obviously, but
Yeah.
clearly you're the person in here that he's like, "Oh, what's up with this guy?"
I'm with her.
Ah, I see.
And you? Are you with
I
him?
I am a friend of the family here for the auction.
You shooting tomorrow?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Got to be a proper gentleman about these things, And yourself?
Also, when he says a proper gentleman, I'll sort of look him up and I'll turn around and say, yes, I fancy myself with a brace of guns, a small wager on the side.
Oh, now you have my interest. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And like he seems very excited by that. Are you, Wilford? I have a question at this point here because I'm certain about this. Uh, are you packing a gun?
Uh, I am. I think as a bodyguard, it would be prudent.
Yeah.
So it will only be a pistol, but it'll be holstered, a jacket holster.
Yeah.
Yeah, left side.
There is that bit where he looks, and you've got 12 points in firearms. So you
Mm,
know what you're doing. Your holster is set in exactly the right way. There's no affectation about it. And you'll see him kind of eye you up and down and make that assessment of you. You can see that he's packing a gun. He's got a shiv in his sock. This guy is not mucking around.
no, and I mean physically, he is bigger than me. Um, I would have thought
Oh yeah,
he's a unit, isn't he? Yeah.
yeah. He says, "Are you from London?"
Hoxton,
Hoxton.
London.
I see. Thought I. Uh, and he'll, he's clearly worked a little bit to kind of move a little bit of his Cockney out of his accent there, but he will drop into that for a moment, and talk a little bit about where he's from. But you kind of know that already. You've looked up his background, so you know exactly
Yeah,
what he's
yeah.
talking
But
about.
I know that's good that he has said it, so that confirms uh what I thought we knew about him. I mean, yeah, he is going to be some formidable foe. Although he seems to have already been dealt with, doesn't he, by
Yeah, he's clearly holding
Harley Phillips.
his scotch in his offhand, and he keeps rubbing his other hand like he got a shock or a burn or something.
Hmm. Interesting. A good example of the mind is clearly better than the brawn in this instance. But yes. Well, I'll say hopefully your small injury won't stop you shooting tomorrow.
Oh no, I should be fine. I should be fine by tomorrow.
It'll be a shame to have to take one of the king's pounds off you. Gentleman's bet, of course.
Gentleman's bet,
Yeah.
but
I have
I'm
no
always,
more money.
Yes, he says we'll back it up. We'll see. We'll see the shooting.
Yes. Yes. Well, best of luck, my friend.
And Richard, you are kind of up, and uh, kind of have been looking around, and I think there's a moment where you're a little startled, because there is another person in the room that you didn't see enter, and is kind of standing towards the corner. You'll see this young woman who has a wild, thick, unkempt hair. It looks good, but it's clearly not carefully styled. And she's clearly watching you.
And she's sort of off in the hall.
No, she's actually in the room. Like you're a little like you didn't see her come in, and you look around, you don't think anyone else saw her come in.
I'll pick up my brandy and walk across to her and stick out my hand and say, I didn't see you there, miss. My name's Mr. Fraser, Richard Fraser.
I'm well acquainted with you, Mr. Fraser. I've read all
Indeed.
your books.
Oh, a fan. Well, I can only apologize for the last one.
No, it was and she'll pause and she says, it was just as good as the first one. And I mean that in the best way.
You're too kind. You are?
Pascal Dumont. I
Pleasure to meet
am
you.
I'm a consultant for Dr. Yeager.
Consultant on what?
He has trouble with his dreams.
Dreams can be troubling things.
They can. I had hoped that our paths would cross here.
Well, then I feel very lucky that Mr. Bradbury engaged me to act on his behalf. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Mont. I'd be very interested. Dreams are an area I share an interest with Dr. Yeager in, and we hope to talk on it later. I hope that you'll be joining us for those discussions.
You see her kind of nod, and she'll lean forward and she says, tread carefully. And then she will nod to you and kind of drifts out of the room.
Richard will, that staring out across as she drifts out of the room, just staring off into the distance before probably Lady Yeager witters something at him, and he turns and, or the butler comes over with another glass or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's take our first break here. We'll take 10. We'll come back and I'll frame up for Alan where we're at, what's going on, and how you got left in Girlston. And we'll continue on. So I'm going to pause recording. So, good doctor. Just to kind of summarize what has occurred so far, and then I'm going to frame you in for a scene. They have arrived at the estate at Mathers Hall, and Wilford noticed there's some changes to the geography since he was here 2 weeks ago. They met a number of the guests there that arrived kind of over a sequence of time. They discovered that Melody von Spall, the antiques dealer, one of her associates, was supposed to arrive ahead of them and apparently has not shown up. And she didn't seem worried. She seemed scared about it. And then we had a number of other people there that we saw, including our mobster. And they talked with an archaeologist on the way, or specialists in things. But how it is that you were not with them is when the train came in, Dr. Henneberger was also on the train, and that meant there were 5 people potentially being in the car, and you volunteered, somewhat out of character, to remain behind and catch the next car, and that is what has occurred. And I think that you find yourself for a bit cooling your heels in Gorleston. Am I saying that right?
Galston.
Galston,
Galston.
which, as you can imagine, is perhaps not the most exciting place for you. But you will do that. And a little while after you are there, this very loud car, kind of laughing here from that, and pulls up, and there's this honking of the horn, and this young woman leans out and says, you, are you headed to Mathers? You smell like you're headed to Mathers."
I had intended so to be. Have we met?
No, we've never met. Do you want to ride?
Well, may I introduce myself?
If you wish, but why don't you get in? It's going to rain in a little bit, so hop in. Busby will drive us on up.
Very well. Do I in any way recognize this woman?
I think that there is a moment there when you put 2 and 2 together and realize that this must be Verity Dyse.
Okay, fine.
And she says, "You could just throw your bags in the trunk, or wait. Busby, get out and help him. He looks a little infirm." And this young man, a gawky, will get out from behind the wheel and will kind of hop over to the thing and just grab your bags out of your hands, and goes over to the trunk and throws them in roughly on top of the other things, and shuts the trunk, and gestures for you to get in the car.
I get in the car. How do you do? Alfred Whitewood.
Ooh, the noted Satanist.
Arthur Whitewood. What am I talking about? Arthur Whitewood. Sorry, you've rather confused me.
Oh, sorry.
Well, much of what was in the newspapers was, of course, exaggerated out of all recognition with the truth.
"Oh, come, doctor," says Verity. "We know how these things work. We're all people of the world."
Well, indeed we are. I am just curious how you come to be traveling to Mathers.
"Oh, I was invited for the auction. I assume you're here for that sort of thing too. Maybe buying some devil's instruments."
Well, it does appear that any pretense has been thoroughly skewered through, Miss
Dyse, Verity Dyse.
Oh, a pleasure to meet you.
And this is Busby. She points to the young man driving. She points to the young man next to her, and this is Chad. And that's Lady Marlowe, and she points to a woman who looks like she's maybe half Chinese, seated in the front seat, who has been kind of smiling and smirking, but not openly laughing, and not openly drunk like the others.
Okay, enough said. I will formally maintain my dignity and introduce myself to Lady Marlowe. And I beg your pardon, your name was? I say to him.
Chad.
Chad.
Oh, are we using last names here? Sometimes when we go places, we're not supposed to use last names.
Well, Miss Dyse and Lady Marlowe seem very content, and I am more than discreet.
Chad Dobbins.
Mr. Dobbins, a pleasure to meet you.
The pleasure is mine. Dr. Whiteacre.
Let it go.
And Busby will say my last name is Furlong.
So my impression has been that Busby is a manservant. Is that correct, or is he just one of her coterie?
She doesn't have a manservant. These are the men that she's dragged along on this thing.
Okay. Well, I will introduce, catch his eye in the mirror and introduce myself to him.
And you will drive along. He is clearly a little inebriated. And he clearly has no care for speed limit.
It's okay. I've been driven by Isabella.
That's right. You were driven by an American at one point.
I was indeed.
Scandalous.
And scandalous. And size of the road is a mystery to the woman. Buying or selling, Miss Dyse?
Well, all of us are exchanging, is my impression.
Well, but do you hope to go away with more than you arrived, I suppose I mean?
It all depends on who's there. We'll see. I'm
Who or
very
what?
curious about Mathers Hall. I've heard some things about what he's done with the place.
Oh, do tell.
Well,
I have never visited before.
Ah,
And I am curious. I do not wish to feel out of place or ill-informed. That would be terribly rude.
what do you want to spend for your interpersonal here?
I think I'm probably going with reassurance.
She will say, there are some people who think they understand how these things work, and they don't. And they rather brute force muck with channels and wires and redirect them. And it's my understanding that he has rather set up Mathers Hall as Little Dunwich.
Oh, that will be fascinating.
Fascinating, or perhaps everything will go awry, which is what I am very much looking forward to, is when it all catches fire and burns to the ground.
I'm sure it will provide entertainment whichever way this were to turn. This Dyse.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me, you said that the stories of your satanic activities were exaggerated, were they?
Well, to a large extent, I may have tinkered in ways that perhaps, with hindsight professionally, I should have been more concerned about, and perhaps I reaped a whirlwind, Miss Dyse, when perhaps a mere gale would have been appropriate.
I see. I see. And she leans in close and she says, I can smell the ley lines on you.
Well, you have found me out, I whisper back.
Oh, I think it's just the start of finding you out, Dr. Whitewood.
I wish I could claim to be sufficiently fascinating to take up your time.
Champagne? And she holds out a glass and a bottle and begins to pour in the shaking car even before you can answer. And she'll thrust the glass into your hand.
And I will sip like a gentleman.
And I think that we do hear the sound of the car come screeching up, perhaps the horn honking as the rain has started, and all of you who are in the parlor will hear the sounds of servants going out to help and loud voices talking and raucous laughter, and there will be a moment where Dr. Yeager will say, I see that Miss Dyse is here. And they will come stumbling in, her and her party, with Dr. Whitewood in tow.
Good day.
Richard?
Dr. Whitewood, nice of you to join us. I see you managed to arrive safely.
Now, if I go meta for a moment, to what extent do we know one another?
Oh, we're associates working for Mr. Bradbury with our cohort.
Fine. And that's you and me.
Yeah.
Whereas Grimaldi and Willford have a separate cover.
Yes, you did.
And Willford.
Yeah,
fine.
I did ride up together on the train. So
yes, fine. Yes, Miss Dyse here was kind enough to motor me up.
Verity Dyse.
Well, let me introduce you.
Yes,
Miss Dyse.
And
Mr. Richard Fraser.
Yes.
He
the writer.
Yes. You've read my work?
Yes, it's a dumb little book.
Well, it does go over some people's heads, yes.
No, it's the puzzles. They're very... It seems like such a waste of time. Seems like energy spent in foolish directions. But, that's what they say of all of us. So you probably couldn't do better. But your second book, even worse.
Well, I agree with you on that.
Good. I like a person who knows their own limitations. And she'll say champagne, and she's kind of got a bottle still in her hand, and she like looks like she's going to pour it into with your scotch.
I knock back my brandy and give her hold out the glass to her. Yes.
And she will pour it into there, and she says, "Are you the Satanist's assistant?"
That's where I find myself at the moment. Yes. And your companions?
This is I like to travel with my own entertainment, so I brought them along. They know a little.
Well, it's good to travel in the company of one's peers, isn't it?
Oh, you are a wicked one, aren't you?
Now, raise the champagne glass. And I've got a mind to, at some point later, try and speak to one of her idiots about this Mablethorpe business.
Okay.
Directly.
And I think it's at that point that Mr. March will come in and will say, if everyone would follow me, dinner will be served, and we'll lead you all into a long table. You can see that Lady Yeager has carefully arranged everything. You see her doing that like last minute check over things, has those very carefully arranged. She seems very tense as people are seated. You have the sense that perhaps Verity Dyse did not say how many people she was bringing, and they're clearly not servants. And so there is some jockeying and placement of people there. Though you will notice that there is one empty spot that is left. And they will settle down to dinner, and it is splendid. Begin with the soup courses and a meat course and all of that, and it kind of goes on and on here. Isabella, who are you seated next to?
I think that I'm seated next to Agnes, and across from Harley, which is sort of to the Agnes is not completely pleased with that situation, but I try to I should say be entertaining and keep the conversation between Harley and Agnes and I going. So if that makes any sense.
You definitely have the sense that Agnes is not familiar with the sort of the esoteric occult side of things, and perhaps that she's not sure what she's been dragged along by her friend Phillips. But she is pleasant. She has a slight French accent there.
Oh, at least she's from the continent. So
Yes.
yeah, so fast friends then. So
Absolutely. Willford, who are you sat next to?
I think I'm going to continue keeping an eye on our good friend, the thug. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick close to Mr. Chaplin and continue some conversation with him.
I think that in the course of this, uh, there is a bit where Chaplin and Jaeger exchange in a trade, not exactly of barbs, but clearly you have the sense as they kind of go back and forth that Chaplin is here for a purpose. There is something he wants. And he's trying to get some assurance from Jaeger that it is here. They talk around it, and Jaeger is kind of gently putting him off, but being reassuring that he has nothing to worry about. Does that seem like a fair read
That
on
does,
that
yeah, because
combo?
I was concerned about the relationship between Chaplin and Jaeger. So yeah, that adds quite a bit more to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard, who are you sat next to?
Is Maxwell Pierce here?
No, he is the one that the empty seat is for.
I thought that might be Dr. God.
No, in fact, like you've walked around and kind of as you've gone to sit, you will note that there is no place setting for Godhold.
Well, not seeing Lord Portmore's man to sound him out, I will. I think I will be sat with Chad and Busby, perhaps, and maybe Lady Jaeger, kind of,
The young people there.
yeah, and I'd like to, Chad Busby, you must. How long you've been traveling with Miss Dyer?
She drags us along sometimes, sometimes to house parties, sometimes to hikes, and other things. Uh, 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 eh, uh, we've lasted longer than most. And there's some laughter there.
Well, it must be formidable. I heard some business in Mablethorpe recently.
And Chad kind of clearly like doesn't know what we're talking about, but you see Busby will go, Yeah, that was a while back. Yeah. We were up there for a while, and we were there when the storm came and flooded out the houses. We left before the earthquake, but I heard about that afterwards. And you can see him kind of like he gets a little tense about this.
Interesting. And what brought you to me? What brought your group to Maplethorpe?
Uh, Verity wanted to go sailing.
Well, I suppose no better place for it than Maplethorpe. And what good time, how fortunate you were to leave before the earthquake.
Yes, yes.
I'm wondering if I spend a point of flattery, could I perhaps get him a bit drunk and get him lubricated about to let something slip here?
Sure.
That's probably flattery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that probably the part of it is that you get Chad talking more intensely with Lady Jaeger there while you lean in and talk a little more uh, uh,
Yeah,
carefully, quietly
that
with
was totally
Busby.
my hope with including an extra person was there to be a third wheel to
Yeah.
slightly deflect interrogation from. But yeah,
And one of the things you get is that he didn't go sailing. Lady Verity did with a couple of others. Uh, and he can't quite give the specifics, but he hints around that she and the people that went with her uh, took some things out on the water uh, and did some stuff. And one of the things you also realize is this is actually a few years ago. Like this is a longer time ago, before even you had started in engaging in the arts. And the sense you get from Busby is that he thinks that she caused the storm. He doesn't say that explicitly, but like he's clearly still quite shook from this. Um, and that it was bad.
Yeah, and he appears to be seemingly completely in over his head when it comes to this kind of thing, like not to have any real insight into it himself.
Yeah, except that you will notice, like, uh, when his sleeves come up a ways, that there are clearly some tattoos on his arms. There that he'll kind of tug his sleeve down. Uh, you suspect that he either got them at Verity's request or she put them on him.
Interesting. Well, I won't commit the social faux pas of asking him directly about them at the table.
Absolutely, you are British,
Mm.
so. Dr. Whitewood, who are you seated next to?
I think I will endeavor to place myself next to Verity. No matter where my little nameplate is located, I think I would like to insinuate myself into a seat next to Verity, with the kind of I hope you don't mind, Miss Dyse, but if were I to sit next to you, it's just I feel I know so few people here directly.
No, no,
other than my reputation.
I'm used to older men stalking me.
And really what I want to do over dinner is listen. Nod and smile. Oh, fascinating. I'm interested in who she's talking to and who she's talking about.
Let's have you make an occult spend.
Well, coming to that, I'd like to interest her in my field microscope. Because I would like to spend some, I was going to spend some occult and some stability
Okay.
to use the mystic vision that we talked about last time, which the focus of which is my field microscope. And I want to interest her in kind of, look, you can look at the weave on your napkin, and then kind of and then just, and you can look all around as an excuse to have a look around. But yes, let's start with occult.
Okay.
Spend one. Whoops, daisy, nearly. There we go.
So her bright young things persona, it's not an act. Like that's clearly who she is. Like she clearly is devil may care, do what thou wilt, kind of thing. But she knows what she's talking about. Like more than other people around here. Like she throws offhand references to magical theories and books and things like that just gets kind of tossed away in the conversation, that tells you that this is a person who is both foolish and much deeper in the arts than you are.
Which makes her incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
Well, I think I think I'm going to drop into the conversation the wounding of the Silver King and the wound Dolorous, and imply that while not, this is what I mean when I say that the whole Satanism thing was really rather more what the media made of much more serious investigation.
I see. Well, those sorts of things, that is what we really need to be doing here in England, is taking care of those kinds of things. So we don't have to worry about those intrusions. There are ways to handle that. The things that we bring out into the world and the things that we trap, these are powers that can be channeled.
Indeed, do tell.
And she will glide away from that particular conversational gambit. But I do think that she does look through your microscope, and you do kind of, bring that out. She clearly recognizes it as an invested object and such. But I think the thing that will strike you and make you a little nervous is she's impenetrable to your kind of mystic vision.
Oh,
Like you try to maybe read a little deeper, try to invoke that, and she's an absolute blank.
Do I have any knowledge of magical theory or spells that would do that, or is she entirely a creator? Is she really a being? Is she a human?
Why don't you make a spend from your Zoa?
I'm prepared to do that, I think. There you go.
She feels like London.
Oh. Oh. I feel the black dog stalks me.
Yeah, I think there is that bit that you're as you're around her for a bit that you'll start to feel a little bit of that lethargy that you felt in London.
Yeah. Enough said. We may have to rotate at pudding.
As dinner gets towards the end, as we are getting towards the pudding and dessert, and you can hear the storm kind of coming up a little bit more. You will see the pocket doors open, and you will see this tall figure come in, uh, uh, dressed very sharply, but very kind of deliberately, archaically, comes in. He's like his overcoat and his hat have been taken by the butler, and he will come in and nod and look around. You see him look at Verity and makes a face, and he will run his glance around everyone else, and Dr. Yeager will say, this is Maxwell Pierce. He is Portmore's assistant associate, and Pierce says colleague, who is joining us on Portmore's behalf. And he will come in and look around at all of you and settle himself in. And he says, I ate on the way. If perhaps I could get something to drink, it would be appreciated. And they will come and serve him. And he very carefully looks around the table, watches all of you. I think his eyes do rest on Dr. Whitewood, perhaps a little bit longer than the others. But he settles in. And then I think dinner is done. And Yeager will say, well, shall we retire to the billiards room? And he will say, we will make no compunction for gender. If anyone wishes to join us, or Lady Yeager will also host a little gathering in the parlor should anyone wish to go there. But I have brandy and cigars in the billiards room.
I'll take my lead from Verity, I think.
Okay. I would like to give it a moment where we can have the four of you kind of cross paths in the shuffle of this to A, kind of talk with each other about things, and then B, decide kind of where you want to head. Does that seem fair? Okay. So kind of as this shuffle goes and the servants are going in various directions and people are going getting themselves freshened up and so on, the four of you can kind of step into a side room and talk with one another.
This is jolly rum.
There seems to be rather a lot of players at the table, don't there? So I wonder what brings each of them here, what they're interested in.
The sense I got from Miss Dyse was that this is about exchange rather than buy and sell. Is that the impression you've got?
Well, we were all invited to bring an object. And thankfully, Miss Grimaldi's contacts were able to provide us with one. Each, I suppose the question is, what have they brought that may be of interest to us?
And I suppose we've already had the conversation about whether the things that we've brought are, whether we're content, whether we're worried about where they're going to go.
They were specifically chosen to be somewhat anodyne,
Fine.
but interesting and intriguing. So
What have they made of us being Bradbury's agents? I mean, has news of what's happened at the Bradbury estate got out, or?
Dr. Jaeger, I believe, cast the portents before we arrived, and he believed he was reassured that Bradbury wouldn't be arriving, and he takes our presence in his place as confirmation that his art is working as intended. He doesn't appear to be aware of the effect what has transpired at the Bradbury estate as yet. I'm rather curious as to Lord Portmore's man. It occurs to me that, well, do we believe that Portmore is even aware of our existence beyond the vaguest terms? Beyond perhaps our workings with Crispina? I'm not sure if he would have been able to identify us as the agents who healed the Silver King and defeated the monster that he unleashed upon the Greys.
Was it me, or did he stare at me?
Well, you are rather famous, Arthur.
More famous than I really realized, I think. Miss Dyse is a very dangerous young woman. Potent, but fickle, I sense. And with little in the way that I can judge of self-control. Please do beware. And in her presence, I found myself feeling rather as I felt in London. It's actually quite a relief to spend time with the three of you.
I think she's associated with partner.
I don't know. She didn't seem to exchange very many pleasantries with Mr. Pierce. So we are convinced he is Portmore's colleague. So I did find myself wondering if these two were competing for his favor.
An interesting idea. I suppose our business here at the hall remains, though, to identify what items of power we might acquire, and if we can, work out what our adversaries may seek themselves and deny it to them. But rather a motley crew of sorts here.
Indeed, yes.
Willford, taken your voice. Speak up, man.
We need to discover who's against Albion. All of them? I doubt. But someone will be deeply against Albion, and they're the people we should focus against.
Well, we know what Portmore's vision of Albion would be, I fear.
And I have to say, I think that Miss Dyse is of that ilk.
See others who I wonder, the Austrian chap that we rode with, Henneberger, he seems harmless enough, and Jaeger himself seems very interested in our own arts, our own practices, the aethers, and his consultant, Miss Pascal. Rather a great many people here. I suppose.
Henneberg, I was concerned that he said he had no creativity at all.
Well, he is Austrian.
True, but they have some penchant for diabolical creativity. He seemed to lack all creativity.
Yes.
And did anybody notice the great tower in the maze?
No.
Oh, that reminds me. Miss Dyse suggested that Jaeger was making a little Dunwich here.
This
I don't
does-
quite know what that means.
Well, there is something out of phase in that maze. The maze is new and it wasn't here, and there's no way physically a maze can be constructed in such a time.
What,
Since
not
my
here
last
at
visit.
all?
What did it look like? Did it look like it was
A large
out of
tower.
dimension?
I only saw it for a second, as if it was out of phase or something. But there was a tower at the center of that maze, a large tower.
Did it look human-made?
It definitely looked
Ancient. Looked
ancient and
old.
made, yes. Human? Who can say? But I'd presume so.
I
Did it make
think
you feel
let me
nauseous
actually
at-
let me actually pause here to
yeah.
give you another piece of detail that I think plays because you have architecture, because you saw the stones before. It looked to you like the tower was made of the same stone as those stones that were brought.
Those ley line stones that you had there, the tower seems to be the same thing. Can't see it anymore, but it was at the center. But I've hatched a plan to cast some magic.
Willford.
Looking at Richard.
Capital.
Maybe bind an animal. Get it to take something to the center of the maze and return. I'm not too sure whether it can ever get there and come back. I think dimensions are at play here. But if it can, leave an object there. And then we can divine.
Yes, then we could use it to help navigate the maze if need be.
If need be.
I feel I could press upon Dr. Jaeger to reveal some of his great work here. The man seems most proud of his art and our shared interests, and I don't think it would take too much to convince him to give us some insight into whatever work he's conducting.
Fair enough. I think that's a good way in, because it's odd, the maze and what I saw. That's for sure. It clearly is some play here. Why would he construct it? Clearly, magically, because it could not be constructed in the time frame given.
Yes, it must serve a function. It must serve a purpose.
A good idea, Richard.
I suppose we should head back before anyone notices that we've gone for too long.
How I had planned to follow Miss Dyse.
You could get arrested for that, Doctor. Like last time, I had to bail you out. It's not right.
Well, I suggest that I will question Dr. Jaeger about the maze, and you would follow Miss Dyse. And
I know that Harley Phillips came upon Jaeger's maps. That might be interesting if I could find out more about that.
yes, she's something of an unknown quality. A rather interesting way of dress.
The game's afoot then.
The game's afoot. Yes.
Who has the items?
Well, I have my book. I assume one of you has.
And Richard has the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
You have been told that probably tomorrow Jaeger will collect those things, or at least check in with you on that, since we'll talk business tomorrow. And of course, there is the shoot that is planned. Let's do this. Let's take our second break, take a 5, and then we'll come back with the evening, like a once around for who you want to talk to, what you want to do there. Sound good? Okay, so take 5. So For anyone watching at home, I'm going to do a brief screen share to show our NPC cast, so you can put faces to names here. And also, so it records this in HD. So there we go. Conrad Yeager, Lady Gwen Yeager, Verity Dyse, who was chosen by someone last week as the proper picture. Amelia von Spall returning, Tobias Kinway, Harold Godhold, who is not present. Bertie Jr. Chaplin, and is still taken from Midsummer Murders. Maxwell Piers, Harley Phillips, Gustav Hennenberger, our house staff there, Agnes Chatapana, who is with Phillips, Pascal Dumont, Lady Marlowe, and another person we have not met yet. So that is our cast there. So we return back. You have some time. You can choose someone you want to interact with. You can go into something else. I do want to do a once around. Let us start with Richard.
Yeah, I will in the brandy room, smoking over the cigars and brandies with Dr. Yeager. I will say a rather interesting maze you have out there, and the tower. Tell me, is that a great working? I see you're undertaking there. Something more to that than meets the eye, I believe.
The stones were brought from Dunwich here.
From Dunwich.
Yes.
Can I spend? No, oral history would be finding sources willing to talk about it. It would be something separate, wouldn't it? I suppose here, rather
Right.
than my... Occult
I think, or history.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll spend history.
Okay. What is your question here?
What's significant about Dunwich and its stones?
Well, Dunwich is said to be one of the old crown places of the kingdom. It's said to have a link to ancient royalty, but it collapsed. The supposed seat collapsed into the sea, and it has a strange reputation. You know that it must have taken quite a bit to have extracted those stones, and probably highly illegal what he did to do that. And it's definitely a point of a ley line. And if Willford is right about the ley line being diverted, it's probably kind of diverted from there to here.
Fascinating. So the stones have allowed you to channel the power of Dunwich to here.
To find a path in this thing, in this way, sometimes one has to recreate things. One has to create our own stations of the cross to help break through the barriers. There are things that I have done in this world to help me move on in the next. You may find yourself at that point someday.
I feel I have a lot to learn from you, Dr. Yeager.
Oh, and I can certainly share some of that knowledge with you. Perhaps you can assist me in breaking through the barriers which bar me at this moment.
Just, nodding along because that sounds music to Richard's ears. Yeah.
He looks at you and he says, if you work with me truly, if you are sincere and honest with me, I can show you the way through the ethers. I can sense that hunger in you, and I can provide you what you require.
I look forward to our work together, Mr. Yeager.
Absolutely. Dr. Whitewood, what is it that you want to do? Who do you want to talk to?
Yeah, I've changed my mind about following Verity.
Okay.
I think I want to have a chat with Mr. Pierce. And is he billiard room or?
Yeah, he's in the billiard room. He is off to the side. You see he has a deck of cards and he is laying out solitaire for himself and kind of watching things and listening.
And I think the approach I'm going to take is I couldn't help feeling when you arrived, Mr. Pierce, a flash of recognition. We haven't met, have we?
Well, please be seated, Doctor. No, we have not met.
But I believe, and please forgive me if I'm off beam here, but you know Lord Portmore?
Yes, I work with Lord Portmore.
I was actually wondering if perhaps you could arrange an introduction.
Oh, I don't think you need an introduction to Lord Portmore.
Really?
I think if you presented yourself on Lord Portmore's doorstep, he would be very interested in you.
Really? I'm hardly of social standing for such a gentleman.
I would describe you as a very austere gentleman.
I think I'm prepared to take that as flattery, Mr. Pierce. And am I right in thinking that Miss Dyse is also associated with his lordship?
No.
Oh,
We
really?
do not associate with Verity Dyse.
I don't. How? Perhaps it was something she said in the car. She gave me a lift. I suppose I might again. Forgive me if I overstep here, but
You
is there
have
something?
already overstepped significantly, Dr. Whitewood. We know what you did. We know how you entered into Meon Hill, and we know what you have done. I would suggest you and your 3 companions, split as you are, should be very cautious in interacting with me.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Mr. Pierce. Good evening. And I will beat a hasty retreat.
He will say, would you please give my regards to Lady Annabelle?
No, I will endeavor not to react to
Okay.
that bait.
Let us come to Willford.
Did Richard, you were on Harley Phillips's case, weren't you?
So that was going to be Miss Grimaldi, I believe.
Ah, Sorry, my mistake. So, I'm going to continue on Chaplin. That injury to your hand, she didn't get the better of you, did she?
No.
A man like you,
He
getting
says,
the better of you.
he says, you and I know that things are not always what they seem.
True, true. But if word of this got out, I ain't going to do well for your image.
Uh,
That must make you pretty mad. You
I'll
can't
get
be happy with her.
I will get my own back. There's all of this such, and then and you see him kind of pat his side where the pistol is. And he says, I never let a slight go unanswered in the long run. I take care of things.
Neither
And
do I.
yeah, good.
But yeah. If you do need some help or something with that matter when it comes around, just give a nod and a wink. I'm sure the Hoxton crew can assist you. My boys, if
I
you get my
see.
meaning.
And he'll drop a couple of names, that and kind of to get you to confirm. He'll say, so, and you see him reach into his pocket, and he pulls out a billfold. You see him open it up, and you'll see him pull out some notes, and he will say, maybe you could give me a sense of what it is that your lady has brought to the table.
Well,
And maybe what she's looking for.
we're bringing a book to the table.
What kind of book?
A book from the Far East.
Interesting. Know anything of what it's about?
Its providence is assured. How much do I actually know about the book?
I think you've seen it. You have a cult, and you would have known that it's kind of a Tibetan sort of black magic.
Black, yeah, that's what I was concerned about. Yeah, it's a book of things that really shouldn't be of this earth. The Tibetans wrote this stuff down. Pretty nasty stuff. Yourself? What are you looking for?
Tell me what your lady is looking for first, and then he
I've
can
already spilled.
hand you the notes.
Uh, what actually are we looking for?
You could certainly make something up.
um,
Oh, you know that she talks about like a different magic type that like comes from her tradition. And it's essentially based on the oh gosh, what's the word for the perfect solids? But it's not that. It's
Platonic?
Platonic solids. Essentially that.
and I will relay that, but I will make some classic pronunciation mistakes of that.
Okay.
Just to put it forwards that clearly Miss Grimaldi or the Countess is by far the driving force. I am just here as the hired muscle.
And I think that will kind of like that will reassure him, and he hands you £5 there, which significant in this era.
It is, and especially to somebody of my means.
Yeah. And he will say, You seem like a right fellow.
Some could say that. I've spent some time on the tiles.
I came really close to it. Really close.
Somebody snatched it from you.
No, no, no. You understand what I'm talking about. And you'll see him kind of pat at his side, and he says, six thrusts. Come close to the lung. I bled hard. I saw things. And I'm never going to have that happen again.
Fair one.
And
Nobody living should see that.
no, I don't intend to die.
Bold statement, my friend. Well, hopefully you get what you need at this auction.
I hope so, and I hope everyone else gets what they deserve.
That's one way of putting it. Definitely. Well, yeah.
Keep this to ourselves.
Of course. We've got to
Good.
have some honor.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if you're going to take more cash off me tomorrow in the shoot. Now I've given you your stake.
Indeed. I aim to double it. At least.
We'll see about that.
Excellent.
And Isabella.
I think that I check with Harley first and I say, do 5 billion?
She says, I can. If you wish a game that might put off some of the gentlemen here.
It seems agreeable to me. And she goes, a moment though, I must change. You are dressed far more sensibly. And she will go upstairs and change her clothes.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed that I would meet the ladies' maid then at
Yes,
that point.
Miss November
Mhm.
will catch you in there. She is the lady maid, so she is the maid to Lady Jaeger, which means that she is sort of the top maid of them all. And she will say, I have Jenny, and she'll gesture to her. And she'll be looking after you. Just tell her what you need. She'll help you with your dressing and your hair and such.
Come along. And
And this
she will-
young woman will
Mhm.
follow.
Mhm. Yes, and essentially
You can tell
Yes.
that she's clearly new,
Oh,
doesn't know the house very well, but she's doing her best.
okay. And I think that I will stop as we get to the stairs, and she goes, you are only a little more familiar than I am with the place, yes?
There's a solid staff, but most of us are new, called in for this.
Will you be remaining after?
I certainly hope so.
Yes. Well,
I don't want to go back to Wales.
Just understand that. So, I have heard tales. That is what she'll say. All right, yeah, and essentially she will change into an evening dress, but one that you can lean forward in without too much worry, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And that the sleeves are free.
And yes, and she will help you get changed. She clearly has some experience with this. She'll talk about where she was placed before, and essentially the mistress of the house passed away, and a lot of the servants got packed off when they closed the house up and things.
And she asks about I think like she does chat with her and she
Mhm.
does keep the accent up and everything. But it sort of, she asks her if she knows how to, tie the bows correctly and everything, and
Oh,
has her
certainly. Certainly.
tie it up, in front first to check and say, very, very good. All right. And then lets her tie the sort of jacket bow behind once she's seen that. She's very, she's not too imperious, but she's still very like, she hasn't worked with her, so she's going
Okay.
to check everything. So,
Absolutely. And you can head back down. You'll make a splash as you come in. Certainly catch the eyes of everyone, including Chad. You can see his eyes get wide
yes.
because you're Italian and therefore exotic.
Exactly. I am. Yes, and then I will join Harley and Agatha.
And you notice that Agnes has a camera with her and does kind of doesn't take any pictures because she doesn't want to use the flash in here, but does kind of clearly look through the viewfinder and such, kind of sight the room. So what is it you want to do here in this conversation with Phillips?
I think that it's a chance for me to ask her about the key, but also to start like seeding the story about the tulpa in some ways, about the book, but very lightly, very casually.
Okay.
Just to see who's interested in such a terrible thing, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I think you could certainly pass that around. I think you will definitely see that if anyone perks up their ears, it is definitely Pierce. Seems interested. That seems to be the one that you will note there. What is your kind of question? What is it you want to know from Phillips?
What I want to know is the dreaming magic, is that what she does? Is that her specialty, or is this something that she's come upon and does not require?
So I think you will end up chatting with her, and I think you will get definitely a sense that she's a little bit of a dilettante, like a little unfocused, like she's still trying to find things. She clearly knows about the ley lines and that sort of Albion magic tradition. But she also has clearly explored a little bit down the path of alchemy. Um, uh, uh, and in fact, you have the sense that she did that for a bit, but then and had a mentor, but then kind of turned away from that, and has been more interested in the magic of Albion of late.
Excellent. All right. And I think this is a thing for probably that any of the group, it's the first time that they probably hear some of the bits of the stories from her time in America, the strangeness that she's encountered, like where she speaks about that clearly her magic is more about recognizing what's intruding, and keeping a place safe, if that makes any sense. Does that make any?
Yes.
Yeah.
Phillips will say at some point, maybe kind of looking over at Dyse, maybe a glance at Pierce, she will say, I suspect you already know this, especially if you have a bodyguard with you, as you seem to, but there are people, magicians in England who would prefer you to be in their company or not at all.
Always those people.
Things are coming to a head. I know that. I can feel that. And I am worried. And then she kind of stops and she says, perhaps a half a year ago, I received an invitation to go to Montjoy, to Portmore's residence. And I traveled there. But something spoke to me and told me not to go there. And I turned aside.
All that you are protected.
Just be careful around Pierce and his people.
Thank you.
And Willford, I want to come back to you because I think we're going to have you do that spell, right? So if we look at that again, I believe it's a sanity cost of 2 for the animal spell, right?
I have it. 2 magic points, 1 sanity point.
Okay. So actually, let me look at this here.
I was looking at bind animal.
Yeah.
I think that is more appropriate than forest, friend of the forest, really. It's listed as folk magic.
Yeah. So basically, that actually will be then it'll cost you 3 stability. Doesn't cost you any magic points.
Okay.
You could spend a magic point to cover the stability cost if you wanted to instead.
No, I'm happy with stability.
And difficulty is a 4 for this.
4. So if I spent 1 magic point now, that would bring that down to difficulty 1, wouldn't it?
So yeah, so it costs you 3 stability for the actual magic power.
Yeah.
And then for the roll itself, if you spend a magic point, you'd be rolling with a +3, so you would definitely make it.
I think this could be quite important, so I'm more than happy to spend the magic point.
Okay.
To bring that down from a difficulty 4 to a difficulty 1.
Okay.
But I could get a really good success, can't I? So it's definitely worth rolling. I know I am going to succeed. So 1d6. Let's see what we get. I rolled 3.
3. Okay.
So standard success.
Yeah. What are you giving this bird that you call to carry?
I'm going to give it a button off my waistcoat. Seems a very small, lightweight item that a bird should be able to carry. I don't have much to my name. I was just looking at my tramp image that I've got up there, and I think I could spare a waistcoat button. So I would like it to take it and leave it in the middle of the maze, and then return to me.
So you will give it this button, and I think you have a sense of it as it flies out. And it will fly over the maze. And then it drops dead. And you see it plummet out of the air and fall with the button into the center of the maze. It
Oh, so
does
I do
not
see,
return.
but I do see it in the maze.
Yeah, it flies over it and it plummets out of the air and drops into the center of it.
Oh. I'll be quite concerned. Well, at least 50% achieved there. It made it to the middle of the maze.
Yes.
Alas, it didn't make it back.
Did you see? Did you see any sign of this tower you mentioned as the bird did that?
I don't think you saw that at night here, no.
Well, hopefully the divination can assist us if need be.
Absolutely.
And on that point, I will remove another button and I will put it under the floor of the I'll jam it at the back of the bed. Because I may need to find my way back here.
Okay.
Could be handy to find my way to the center of the maze, but you sometimes always need to get out of a maze.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. No, I'm very happy. Clearly,
Okay.
the bird is not very happy.
Right.
But that's
He's
how
an
it goes.
ex-bird,
An ex-bird.
as they say.
Yeah.
Dr. Whitewood, is there anything else you would to do this evening before you turn in?
Yes, I want to seek out Verity Dyse.
Okay.
And the gist of the conversation is I found myself in conversation with Mr. Pierce, and I have to say, I found him not at all pleasant. Do you know him at all?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. I know him. He's grown up quite a bit in the last year or two.
Oh, well, he struck me as rather adolescent, if I'm entirely honest with you, Miss
Oh,
Dyse.
no, he used to be adolescent, but he's ancient now.
And I guess what I'm trying to work out here, and I'm thinking of using the description of assess honesty includes with a spend, make a decent guess at their motives. I do want to get some sense of any relationship or the nature of any antipathy between these two, and I'll spend as much of that assess honesty as I need, having now spent quite a lot of time with both of them.
So I think one point will get you the following things. One is clearly she doesn't give a shit about Portmore. It's not, she doesn't have antipathy towards Portmore. Portmore doesn't even register. She's dismissive of him. I think also she clearly knows something about Pierce that she's not saying. But also in terms of general motive, she just really wants to see the world burn.
Okay.
At her beck and call, very much.
Gosh,
Do you want to spend another assess honesty?
I do. I want to keep mining this seam.
She says, Pierce used to be just a scared little boy, just a terrified child. And then his uncle passed away. Pierce says that with the shadow of his uncle done, he could now perform all the tricks and such that his uncle had taught him that he was forbidden from doing while his uncle was alive. You know, stage magician bullshit and all. But that's certainly not the case. That's certainly not the truth. I hope that you won't look for a handsome young buck when you come close to death's door to have as your own.
That's certainly not my intention. Miss Dyse.
Well,
But he,
as I said, Mr. Pierce has grown up since his uncle died.
now this is ringing bells with me. I've just been skimming our original letters. There's something about an uncle and someone becoming the ward of, and but I can't find the reference. Am I
The other
remembering,
person that you
misremembering?
remember as uncle and ward is actually a different pairing, and that is Winthrop, Edgar Winthrop, the
Oh
one who
yeah,
is so invested in Albion,
yeah.
and Sebastian Winthrop,
Yeah.
who goes and visits him.
And there was
Yeah.
also Edward Morse, who was the ward of the Comte
Yeah,
St. Lou, who was killed
Yeah.
by Portmore, we believe, and is now part of Portmore's circle.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And that's Annabelle Gray's paramour.
Mhm.
Yes.
Annabelle Gray being the young woman who's now making her now your ward.
Yeah.
More
A
accurately,
lot of
advice for anyone.
echoes throughout of that.
Okay. Right. Okay. No, that'll do me. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes, uncles are a menace. It's a very Dickensian thing. Uncles and aunts. Uh uh Isabella, anything else you wish to do before you turn in? You are muted.
Let me see real quick. I mean, I assume, gosh, it's weird. In some ways, the group is kind of small. Maybe smaller than I expected. How is Miss von Schall, holding up here without her hold? And especially after dinner when it's very clear that he's not expected.
Yes, I think that will give her pause. And I think you do see her like catch her in the hallway talking with Kenway, like maybe a little conspiratorially kind of thing, before she heads to go and sit with Lady Jaeger. And after that, like goes into very much her I'm a fancy Dutch lady, you know, talks antiquities and art and things like that, and tries to insinuate herself
Okay.
with Lady Jaeger.
Interesting. Okay. And Tobias Kenway, what does he do?
He goes into the billiards room, kind of stands at the back, kind of watching everybody.
All right. And do we see Lady Marlowe at all?
Yes, she came with Dyse. She was at the table. I think you will note that she kind of flitters in and out between the rooms. And I think, in fact, actually maybe like goes outside for a bit and then comes back in. You see a little bit of like damp on her shoes.
Interesting. Right. And I do think that like when I pass her by, I stop and I'm pretty up with the fashions.
Mhm.
I will ask her about her dress. Like essentially, you know, is that, you know, whatever the designer are, I think it's Polly.
And she will certainly chat with you
Okay.
about that. Maybe pleased to have this as a particular conversation thing, that when she goes to these kinds of affairs, there aren't people
That talk
talking
about
about
those things.
civilized things.
Exactly. Well, these are the things that I know, and I've just boned up on all the continental things, so we can talk those things too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
All
think
right.
will certainly make a connection there.
Okay, that sounds good. And I will then take my leave, but with sort of like there's someone we can talk to. Okay.
And Richard?
I think I'm done for the evening, to be honest.
Okay.
I think Richard's happy with, whatever works at Jaeger. He's interested in pursuing more of that with Jaeger, but it seems as though it's waiting for tomorrow for the auction.
Absolutely. And the shoot in the morning. I think you'll turn in Isabella.
Who is it?
It's Van Spal. Please let me in.
And I will, yes.
Early morning light is just
Mhm.
kind of coming in through the windows. Van Spal will let herself in, and she will look around, and she will say, Kenway's gone. He's not in his room. No one's seen him. His bed, like he was clearly there. He's left his luggage. Everything's there, but he is gone.
And you had made no plans?
No. I don't know what's going on.
The pattern is not good. Did you make an excuse and leave?
Dr. Jaeger said I was not permitted to leave. And I think that's where we're going to leave off for today. Let's give everybody a build point, just to have another one to play around with here for this investigation thing, in case you want to take something unusual. And let's do a quick stars and wishes. Isabella, let's start with you.
Oh, stars. Dr. Whitewood was all up in it. Oh my gosh, that was so much good story and plot coming out of your questions and your lovely, I don't know, faux unawareness mixed with actual unawareness. It was good times. I don't know. I'm terrified for us. So there you go. And Richard was so good, right there at the cusp of getting himself into more trouble, or maybe, I don't know, maybe the one who'll save us. I don't know. So ambiguous, so much ambiguity. And I don't know what we would do with that Willford, Paul. He's the only commonsensical one of all of us. So it was all good. And though the NPCs were delightful. And yes, I am the one that's like sort of trying to find the allies that when stuff starts to go wrong, or at least who I want to try to rescue. So there you go.
That seems fair. Willford.
Delightful session. Not huge quantities of action, but that didn't really take away from what went on there. There was some really good character NPC and character interactions. Alan bought a hell of a lot in the time. Jumped right in, which was really good to see. I am slightly concerned that will switch sides. He always comes across a bit dodgy.
Abandon you to rescue a piece of film? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Oh, I'll just shut the door. Thanks, I got the film. And Sherry, you steered me quite a bit there. There was a few things where I thought I was a little bit out of my depth. So thank you very, very much for putting me right on a few things. It was most appreciated. And to you, Lowell. As Sherry said, some great NPC tabs there. You'd clearly put in a lot of work, and it was very nice of you to share them with the people watching. Very, very handy. Really good session, Lowell. Great pacing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
And it did remind me there was one important detail, Dr. Whitewood, I wanted to say that happened before you got here, is that when Mr. March, the head butler, was by Willford, Willford could tell that he is initiate of the same
Yeah.
Zoas. Okay, I just want to make sure that that was.
Yeah, no, I
pronounced.
noticed it on the NPC tab.
Okay, good. And that brings us to you, Dr. Whitewood.
Yeah, no, thank you for your patience all, for my delayed arrival and for allowing me to get stuck in so smoothly. Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed today because I feel as though we've been kind of nibbling around the edges of stuff, and suddenly the landscape for for those for, against, or neutral to Albion, the landscape of practitioners becomes a bit clearer, and I think that what with Wilford cozying up, he's gone from having contacts of dodgy contacts to now speaking for the Hoxton gang. I'll get cooler boys. Cooler boys. Isabella, I think, is on the right track in identifying, those who may be fellow travelers for us, at least. Yeah, and I'm slightly worried about Richard, but then I always have been. I fear that his hubris and urge to he's temptable. It seems to be eminently temptable. But yes, I look
Temptable,
forward.
says the doctor. I remember a moment in the Red Dragon chambers.
Okay. There, but for the grace of God goes he. So no, all of that's great, but I do think that we are now beginning to see some of the lines with Portmore and his on one side, and clearly we are greater movers and shakers than we thought on the other side, and it's time to start recruiting.
Excellent. And Richard.
Yeah, it's another great big cast of working out who's got a different agenda, who's like against who. I love all of this interpersonal stuff, and trying to work out where everyone stands. I quite like this like, what's it called, like a convocation of wizards, different practitioners, all different interests, but coming together on relatively neutral ground, it appears, to talk, and like come together for a sort of confab, I guess, really, and then to see what we can get out of from each other. And we're all, and one imagines, playing each other off against everybody else. I'm glad to see somebody else do magic. I nearly had a heart attack that somebody else spent a magic point in a session. Like, wow. And I'd love to see more of that. I like having like our own kind of assets on small, like a small conspiracy there. I obviously want to, because I do think that now actually faced with like other practitioners, then surely you would try and like learn more from them, right? Like, this is how you get started down these paths, this is how you go further. I'm sure that everything's above board and not sinister in any way, shape, or form with the guy who's organized this entire affair, and there's no way it can go wrong. And my other wish would be, I'm glad that Pierce knows, that Portmore knows, because it means that we can take a bit more of a confrontational approach with them, I think. Whereas when you're not sure whether they know about you, you don't want to tip your hand and everything. And sure, but I think that Richard remembers the charnel house of the Greys, and he's recently just killed his first man in the Bradbury's estate. And I seem to dimly recall swearing vengeance and justice on behalf of the Greys. So I would, I'm sure the narrative will present itself with an opportunity, but maybe there's going to be a slight Delta Green moment at some point in the next couple of sessions with.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you all so much. I really enjoyed that. I love doing a big, of course, country weekend mystery kind of thing with vanishings and weird stuff and big casts. So I am going to stop the recording.